The Nerdcast Empire is on the air. Happy 2026, everybody. It is the first edition of the Hard Rock Empire for the new year. I am Matt in the studio. Great to have you along with us. We are into 2026, but we've still got some business to take care of in 2025. We're going to be doing that over the next couple of weeks as we wrap up the music that was 2025. And this week we are looking at the music that came out on December the 12th. Next week, we'll be wrapping up the final 2 weeks of December, the 19th and the 26th. And the following week, we will have our best of 2025, where we take a look back at some of the stuff we really enjoyed for the year. And then we'll dive into the 2026 music coming up the week after that. Joining me in studio, as always, is Mike. Mike, how's it going?
It's going. Man, music is getting few and far between the stage of the year and entering 2026. I think there are more re-releases coming out as of late than actual noteworthy new studio albums. I think we'll have a few weeks of that, and then we'll be kind of back to business as usual. But, it gives you a lot of time to really sink your teeth into the good stuff that is out there.
Yeah, for sure. And having now done this for a couple of years now, we kind of know what the routine is at this point. So I think neither of us are very surprised that this is what we're coming to. And we have kind of accounted for that in the way we are formatting the show so that we can basically try to wrap up the year and combine a few weeks together so that, we can try to get to the year's end and try to get caught up a little bit, since we did get a couple of weeks behind, and we'll do that over the next few weeks. So just a few quick announcements off the top. Number one, you'll notice our rundown is significantly shorter than it has been. We are going to be shortening the episodes just a little bit over the next little while. It's kind of our new experiment of this podcast, is to find a way to kind of make the podcast a little more easier to kind of digest, easier to prepare for. So this should kind of shorten our podcast to the half hour or a little bit longer range. And that's kind of what our goal is. And part of the reason for that is we would like to be able to do some more content. And we do have some more content coming very soon, a new podcast where we'll be running down some of the best things to come out of Japan. So stay tuned for that. That'll be coming up probably in the next week or two once we kind of get everything finalized with that. So stay tuned for more news on that. But like I said, a little bit of a different format here. Before we get to the new music for December the 12th, we do need to run an ad on Twitch. Just a reminder, if you're on YouTube, you're not dealing with ads. We're not monetized over there. If you're on Twitch, if you subscribe to us, which you can use your Prime, it doesn't cost you a thing. You can do it every month. You won't get any ads. If not, hang around, because we are going to just chat a little bit during the break. You're not going to miss any content. But we do need to run these ads, so we'll get this first one out of the way, and then we'll get to the new music for December the 12th, as it turns out. So we'll get this ad break underway on Twitch, and once that starts, we are in business. And, you look ahead at the end of the year, and you mentioned off the air and something we talk about on the air. Like you said, a lot of re-releases. You mentioned that on the air, but also just the number of new releases gets smaller and smaller each and every week. And I guess it makes sense. It's not maybe the best time to get something out there. Maybe people are looking for Christmas gifts. They're not looking for new CDs necessarily. So as was the case last year, definitely going to be a slowdown over the next few weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. I assume most people are shopping for other people around this time of the year, whereas with music purchases, those are probably just things you're buying yourself. So probably not as likely. I do think there's probably something to be said for things coming out early into January, with the thought that people might have streaming gift cards and whatnot that they might be able to spend on that. Who's to say? But yeah, it's not a lot out there right now.
Yeah, it's pretty thin. And, encourage you to go check out your favorite band's Bandcamp. Don't be surprised if you don't see some deals through there. We have seen a lot of that kind of stuff. Labels, I know Frontiers was running some deals over the December, January time period. So we're checking that out. Check out your favorite band, their social media pages. You may see some holiday deals, although those are probably wrapping up now as we're into 2026, and everybody's kind of looking forward to whatever is to come, whether it's new albums, whether it's new tours, all that sort of thing coming up early in the year. But we are back from our ad break, which means it's time to get to the new music for this week. And I've already pasted the playlist in the chat of YouTube and on Twitch. Of course, each and every week, Mike goes through and pulls the new releases for a given date. The given date in question is December the 12th. And once he does that, he puts together a YouTube playlist. And then we go through our new format. We're each picking one release to spotlight as far as playing some of the tracks and spotlighting the band. But we are going to, as we have done for a while, shout out maybe some bigger bands that have albums coming out, new collections, notable re-releases, and if there are some other bands that maybe just deserve a shout out from us, we're going to do that. It'll be a little bit less prep work on our part, but we do want to spotlight the good music that comes out and make sure you're aware of it as well, especially if it's a band that we have picked earlier on in the year. You know, this week, again, was just kind of thin. Not as thin as last week, a little bit more in the way of selection from this week. But we do always have re-releases, collections, things like that. Before we get to the new picks for the 12th, Mike, tell us a little bit about some of the other stuff that came out this week.
Yeah, so some of the other major new releases that came to my attention, Graham Bonnet Band, Lost in Hollywood Again live album. Amazed at how great that guy still sounds.
Yeah.
But, you know, legendary lead singer there, great album.
Yeah, I was blown away, honestly. Like, he still sounds fantastic, and he's pushing 70, I think.
Let's say 78 or something like
maybe
that.
pushing 80. Definitely
78,
getting it.
yeah.
So still absolutely getting it done, and definitely worth checking that album out.
Obviously known for his time in Rainbow, Alcatraz, Michael Schenker Group, just one of the legendary voices in metal.
Yeah.
Moving on, we got Jim Peterick and World Stage, River of Music, The Power of Duets, Volume 1. Everything this dude releases is at the very least good. Like, there's really nothing to say about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I've enjoyed it and have picked some of his stuff in the past, and this is another really strong release from him. It was a really good week if you're a fan of AOR, melodic rock, a lot of choices from Frontiers this week. We're going to talk about one of those bands here in a little bit, but yeah, Jim Peterick continuing to churn out. It feels like they release an album about once every 2 months, and it's all been good.
Yeah, I mean, definitely not leaving anything in the vault. He is just turning out music upon new music upon new music. The only other kind of new studio album that caught my attention was Lord of the Lost, Opus Noir Volume 2, German Gothic metal band. They've been around forever. Good stuff there. That's really about it as far as the new stuff. Tons of re-releases, though.
Yeah.
We're talking about 2 from Brazen Abbott, their 1995 album Live and Learn, and their 2003 album Guilty as Sin, both being re-released. Jimmy Jameson, 1998 live hits, known as one of the vocalists from Survivor. Pretty much the guy who sang all the songs besides Eye of the Tiger, as far as I could tell. Sounded good on that album, unfortunately no longer with us. The band Sabotage, not Savatage, but Sabotage, Italian thrash metal band from the 80s, are re-releasing Behind the Lines, their 1986 album, and Hoka Hey, their 1989 album. Tons of back catalog stuff to get a hold of, so that's never a bad thing.
It's great to see these acts putting their old stuff, back out there, whether it's just a straight re-release or they're remastering it, or some cases even re-recording it, because as we have talked about on this podcast, there's so many of these bands that we have discovered in the course of this. I mean, Brazen Abbott's a perfect example.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about them until we did this podcast, but when I saw them show up on the list, I was excited because that's a chance to go back and check those guys out, some of their older stuff, and what I've heard of both so far is really good. So, yeah, it's a great week for catching up on stuff you may have missed the first time, or, I do want to shout out the Jimmy Jameson one. Obviously, that was taken from a series of about 4 concerts back in 1998. It sounds phenomenal. It's all the songs you know, some other stuff outside of maybe the songs that you know, but it sounds fantastic, and just, again, really sad that, he's not with us anymore. But I like the fact that Frontiers is also kind of getting in the business of releasing some of that kind of stuff, too, that might otherwise just be lost to time. So that's really encouraging as well.
Yeah, the other interesting thing about that is this whole time I had no idea that he co-wrote and sang the Baywatch theme.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I just always assumed that was David Hasselhoff singing that.
Yeah, I kind of assumed that was part of the reason David Hasselhoff agreed to be in Baywatch was that he could do the music for
That was
it.
my assumption. I really had no clue.
I didn't either. So.
Now that I think about it in my head, like, yeah, obviously it was that guy, but no idea back then.
No, not at all. So
Also, Survivor, grossly underrated.
Oh, tremendously. I think, and the thing is, like, their hit that's I would say overplayed, it's still a great song. Like, it's, as far as overplayed songs, it's amazing because I don't feel like I ever get tired of hearing it. But their other stuff, especially a lot of the stuff that Jameson sings on, is like, if they would have never had Eye of the Tiger, these are mega hit songs.
I would argue, and this may be a relatively warm take, as far as songs from Rocky movies, Burning Heart is better than Eye of the Tiger.
Yeah, it is. It's funny how many different versions of that song show up right now in my YouTube music because there was one of the bands, I can't remember off the top of my head, it'll come to me in a moment, that released a covers album, and Burning Heart is on that as well. So I feel like that, a lot of people probably have that same
I feel like I
take.
might have had that. I have my spreadsheet that I was like keeping track of cover songs on it. I feel like I had that somewhere, but I don't know where now.
But that is a great song. And I definitely encourage you to check that album out. If you're maybe not familiar with the non-Eye of the Tiger Survivor stuff, I think when you listen to some of these tracks that maybe you've forgotten that you knew, I think it'll all kind of come flooding back in nostalgia.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Yeah, that was it actually for this week.
I kind of, again, not a huge week, but there's still plenty of stuff out there for you if you want to check stuff out. And again, encourage you to go through Mike's playlist each and every week. It's a good way to find some stuff maybe you just didn't know was out there, or it's just discovering some new things you like.
You know, one other thing I thought about, and kind of talking about rediscovering or discovering for the first time some of these bands that have been around a while, I kind of look at this year as far as my other media consumption as being really backlog heavy, like hitting old video games, old anime and movies that I haven't gotten around to, just because I'm just not feeling a lot of the new stuff, or I'm not thrilled with the delivery method of a lot of the new media.
Sure.
I think, while music is what it is, we're never going back to the old days necessarily, and there's still really good music being made today. Never a bad time to just pick a band and say, I want to dig into their catalog. Maybe I haven't had a chance to get into these guys and see what it's all about.
I think that's where I'm going to be headed next for the Vault when we get done with the Frontiers run, is to just pick some of my favorite bands, maybe some of the more unknown bands, and go through their catalog and just go through all their albums and really kind of see what's out there.
I think of the bands just historically that have been greatest hits bands to me.
Yes.
Where I don't know their albums, but I know
Yeah.
that select 15 tracks that made the greatest hits.
Yeah, for
I think
sure.
those are great candidates for that.
Yeah, I think of a band like Journey immediately comes to mind as a
Journey,
band like that.
Any of that era, that
Yeah.
arena rock era, your Journey, Kansas,
Foreigner.
REO Speedwagon, Boston, those are all just bands that I probably need to know everything about.
Yeah, so that's probably coming up when we get to the new year. I think I've got a few more weeks left with the Frontier stuff. But before we get to the Vault, we got to get to the new music. We are ready to move on to Mike's selection for this week. It's kind of weird still saying just one selection, but again, definitely saves us a lot of time. But what did you pick for this week?
Figure the second one's DLC. If you want to pay extra, I'll give you a second selection.
Do we start
otherwise, you're just getting the first one.
Do we start a Patreon for like our patrons can get our second pick of the
Deep
week?
cuts for the week.
Or call the 1-900 number. We can you have Mean Gene tell you what our second pick of the week
big
is.
rumors about a superstar maybe showing up on Nitro. Definitely want to find out about that.
For sure. But good stuff this week. Mike, what did you pick for us?
Oh, man. So I hope I'm not shooting myself in the foot here with my around the world gimmick, because I believe this is a place I've not visited yet. But we are looking at the 7th full-length studio album from a power metal band from Costa Rica.
Oh.
They are Wings of Destiny, and the album is Masters of War.
Yeah, that might be one that you need later. Although, again, maybe there's some back catalog stuff there you can dive into.
7 albums in, I'll be fine.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I enjoyed the track list playlist song for these guys, so not surprised to see you pick them.
Yeah, so these guys formed in 2013 under the name Destiny, then rebranded in 2015 as Wings of Destiny. Imagine Destiny is a fairly popular name. The band was started by the vocalist Anton DeRusso and former bassist Brian Molina. The current band lineup consists of DeRusso on vocals, along with Horatio Kofoed on drums, Andres Castro on guitars, David Schenkel on guitars, and Michael Lapond on bass. It's worth noting that David Schenkel had previously spent 6 years playing with Manowar from the late 80s into the mid 90s and tons of other bands. And Michael Lapond has an extensive list of credits. He's actually, since 1999, and is currently the bassist for Symphony X.
Oh, okay.
So when Anton needed to get some new members of the band, he got some heavy hitters. So that speaks to what you're going to hear with this album, I think.
Yeah.
Their Bandcamp lists strong influences from bands like Stratovarius, Angra, Halloween, and Rhapsody, among others. Basically power metal royalty, but this band has the vocals and musicianships to do those inspirations justice, I think. What was surprising listening to the album is every now and then Anton gets some like harsher vocals going on, not so much death metal, but definitely some growling. It's not overdone and it sounds good and kind of keeps them from feeling too much like any one of their influences. They kind of have their own thing going on, which is really good to hear. It works really well on a track like Obey or Die. Reiner Kerber from Metalheads Forever magazine called this album one of the best power metal albums he's ever heard. Sounds like hyperbole, but the more I thought about after listening to this, I started having that feeling of like, hey, I've really discovered something here. Kind of that same feeling I had the first time I heard a Sonata Arctica album or the first Halloween album I heard, where I've now discovered a band that I really want to get into the rest of their work. So maybe it's not too crazy to think this might be one of the, upper echelon power metal albums. Standout tracks on it include Masters of War, Walking in Shadows, Life, Obey or Die, Waiting for the Sunrise, and the track that I picked to listen to, Incantation.
Check these guys out as Wings of Destiny with their new release, Masters of War. This is the 6th track off of this album, Incantation. Let's listen to a little bit of that now. Yeah, again, very traditional power metal feel to it. It's, they, like you said, the little more gravelly vocals, maybe not all the way to your harsh vocals, but something kind of in the middle. It does give it a little bit of an edge that your traditional power metal sometimes doesn't have. Obviously, a lot of speed in the drums, definitely keeping things moving along. But overall, I mean, it does feel like this album could be among the best power metal albums of the year because it's just really high quality beginning to end.
Yeah, it really has me excited, like I mentioned, to kind of get into the rest of these guys' catalog, just because it's been a while since I found that next band to kind of put amongst your Sonata Arcticas, Ed guys, Halloweens, and not saying these guys are necessarily it right now, but maybe a couple albums. Once I've listened to a few more of their albums, I'll be willing to put them there.
Yeah, we'll see how they continue to progress. But Wings of Destiny, definitely worth checking out. Mike's pick for this week. I also have one pick, as we have changed the format of the show. And I mentioned Frontiers had a really loaded week for releases, so it was almost guaranteed that I wasn't going to pass up a Frontiers release just because it feels like they go several weeks with nothing, and then all of a sudden they drop their entire month's catalog in 1 week. And again, that feels like what happened here, but this is a solo artist. This is Rob Moratti and his new album, Sovereign. He's the former lead vocalist of the band Moratti, along with Final Frontier, and the band he's probably best known for, Saga. This is kind of another one of those artists that has found kind of that niche in this melodic metal that Frontiers creates, and his music is kind of right up that album. And he's brought a lot of talent in. We just talked about, talent on that previous album, but he's brought Joel Hoekstra in from Whitesnake and ex Night Ranger to play lead guitar, Tony Franklin from Blue Murder and ex The Firm on bass, Felix Borg on drums, Frederick Berg on keys, and Pete Alpenborg, who also contributes rhythm guitar and keyboard. So a lot of talent, musical talent in this group. Moratti, though, obviously carries it with the vocals over the top. Your typical melodic metal, a lot of very classical choruses, sing-along type stuff. The Frontiers release said they're very much in line with bands like The Storm, Journey, Survivor, Strange Ways, and Signal. I thought some of their stuff actually sounded very much like classic Stryper as well. Maybe it was just his vocals gave me that same feeling. It's very bright melodic rock. And it's just done really well. I really enjoyed the whole album, and it goes by very quickly. It was just a lot of fun to listen to, and it was a nice contrast to the progressive album I chose for the Vault that is definitely a little bit longer in runtime. We'll get to that in a moment. But overall, if you like melodic rock, I think you're going to really dig this. Standout tracks include Don't Give Up on Love, Waiting, Lockdown, and the song we're going to listen to on the podcast is Can't Let You Go. We're going to listen to Rob Moratti and his new album, Sovereign. This is the second track off of this album, Can't Let You Go. Let's listen to a little bit of that now. I mean, again, typical melodic rock. I think on that melodic rock scale, this one is probably in the middle or maybe a little bit toward the, hate to say cheesy melodic rock side, but definitely something that sounds a little more like pop melodic rock than maybe stuff that's a little more on the heavier side. But overall, it was an enjoyable listen. Definitely worth checking out if you're a fan of the genre, a fan of his stuff, either current or previous. Mike, your thoughts?
Yeah, I kind of feel like on that spectrum, you have the one side that's just hard rock that has some melody, and then on the far other end is like just the pure AOR stuff. And from what I heard of that, it kind of leans more that direction, which isn't a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's just a thing. And when I heard the playlist track, my thought was like, okay, this could be a solid pick for somebody. There's no doubt about it. This is good stuff. And yeah, great to see these guys putting out music. I mean, this guy. The people that he got to work with. I mean, Blue Murder is a classic band.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of talent there.
And Whitesnake.
So, yeah, honestly, it was a really enjoyable listen. And, yeah, there's a vast array of stuff that Frontiers releases. And this, I would say, like you said, a little more toward the AOR side. But overall, enjoyable. Definitely worth checking out. Rob Moratti, his new stuff, out as of December the 12th. That wraps up our new music for the week. That was easy. We're going to get to one more ad break on Twitch before we get to the Vault and bring this episode to a close. So if you are watching on Twitch, we encourage you to stick around, or you can subscribe. Obviously, you can do that with your Amazon Prime. It doesn't cost you a thing. Otherwise, again, you're not going to miss anything. We'll chat during the break. We'll come back with the Vault, so don't worry. Just hang through the ad break. We appreciate the support of even just watching the ads. If you're on YouTube, you're going to hear us chat because there's no ads on YouTube. So we'll hit this ad break, and then we'll be back to put a finishing touch on this episode with the Vault on the other side. So the ad break is now running, and again, it was a very heavy week for Frontiers. A lot of stuff coming out this week. It feels like, especially over the last few months, their stuff has been very much like nothing, 4 albums, 5 albums, all at once. And it'll be interesting to see where Frontiers looks like in 2026 because obviously we've talked about how, they've overgone some changes. Alessandro Del Vecchio leaving Frontiers and kind of doing his own thing. And we've seen some other melodic rock labels kind of pop up as the year has gone on, even in Italy specifically. So it's going to be really interesting to see what the future of Frontiers looks like. And do we see more AOR melodic labels kind of pop up to challenge who's been kind of the unquestioned king for a while?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, you also see Frontiers branching out as well with some of their other imprints, like their Black to Black, which tends to have more metal acts. Obviously, Megadeth releasing their last album on it. That's a thing. I think Biohazard signed with them among some other bands. So, yeah, I mean, these guys are definitely. There's going to be competition, but it seems like they're more willing now to kind of see other areas of metal as well. So, just means more new music, more classic music. I'm not going to complain.
Absolutely not. So, and we'll continue to bring it to you each and every week on the podcast at our normal time. So make sure you tune in every Sunday night, 7 o'clock Eastern time. And join the Discord as we are rejoined by Twitch. Discord is pinned in each of the chats. That's where you can find out where our episodes are going to be. When we start doing new content, it'll be there. But if we have to change, if we have to move things due to our schedules, you'll find out about it on Discord first. So join our Discord. Please join our community. We're still building it. Still, I would think, in the infancy stages of that. So we'd love to have you there. But it's time to get to the vault where Mike and I will each pick a classic album you need to check out. Again, Mike is working through 2 different vault gimmicks. Every other week, Mike is allowing a random country generator to send him somewhere in the world. It's what he mentioned earlier with the band he picked today, that could potentially be a country he ends up in at some point. And next week, Mike will head back out on the road, so to speak, to go to a new country. But in the intermediate, every other week in between, he's going through the Sonic Temple lineup, which, of course, Sonic Temple now just a little over 4 months away, believe it or not. It is coming quickly as we are on to January. So in that interim, he's going through and picking some of the bands that will be performing at Sonic Temple and looking into their catalog. So I believe that's where we are this week.
Yeah.
And what do we have this week for the vault?
Yeah, before I make my trip next week to Bosnia and Herzegovina, we are back to Sonic Temple. It is week 5 of my Sonic Temple tour. I've made it through 4 weeks of the 5th stage, so we're moving on to stage 4 from here. It's been an interesting adventure so far. We've encountered slimes and goblins and trolls and dwarves, a phoenix, a sinking ship. Just to kind of review, week 1 was Necrogoblicon, the fundamental slimes and humors from 2022. Week 2 was Power Man 5000, their 2024 album, Abandoned Ship. Week 3 was CKY with their 2017 album, The Phoenix. And 2 weeks ago, we did Windrose with their 2024 album, Troll Slayer. So it has been all sorts of adventures and weird creatures. It's been a good time. So moving on to Thursday, stage 4, kind of looked down the set or the band list there, and it seems very metalcore focused. I think every band listed in their Wikipedia write-up had something to do with metalcore, post-hardcore. Some had some like new metal, pop punk thrown in there too. But overall, metalcore seemed to kind of be what tied these bands together. You have Dayseeker headlining from California. They're post-hardcore metalcore. Magnolia Park from Florida. They're kind of all over the place, but also post-hardcore metalcore. Texas band Catch Your Breath, a band from the UK, Holding Absence. Windwalkers from Massachusetts, post-hardcore alternative metal. A couple bands whose names kind of caught my attention. One band is Nerv from California. They are a genre-bending rock and modern metalcore band. The other band, Wind Waker from Australia, who did on their bio state that they're named after the Legend of Zelda game from the GameCube. Okay. So kind of weird of all games to name yourself after, picking Wind Waker, which I think has over the years become more beloved by fans, but was pretty divisive when it came out.
Yeah.
Like the little like chibi Link and the cel-shaded graphics didn't really do a whole lot for people. And then finally, the Pretty Wild, Nevada metalcore female-fronted band. Going through all those, kind of seeing what I had to pick from, there was one band who I kind of featured earlier last year. They weren't one of my picks from May 9th, but they did end up on the YouTube video where I picked 5 songs from that week. We are talking today about their 2025 EP. The band is Nerv, and that EP is Lost.
And I'm assuming they're not named after the organization
in
Evangelion.
It's like when you're looking at a stage that has a band who's named after a Zelda game, you just don't even know what you're dealing with anymore.
That's fair.
But yeah, definitely some of the better names as far as bands and stages of Sonic Temple. Nerv from their label's website is a 4-piece active rock band residing in Sacramento, California. Band consists of Dylan Jones on vocals, Jordan Grockett on guitar, Scott Buchanan on guitar, and Tyler Clark on drums. They first kind of broke in 2017 with a single, Enough, and have since released 2 EPs. Their first full-length album in 2022, We're All Patients Here, and most recently, back in May of 2025, the EP Lost. That week, I ended up going with albums from Void and Tetrarch instead of them, but the playlist track was still solid and definitely had my attention, as I've included it on our YouTube video. Anything that has a more decidedly modern sound can be hit or miss with me. I'm not always a big modern metal guy. There are certain elements to that can drive me away, typically with how they use programming and digital effects. And then the vocalists, like some of the modern metal vocals, I'm just not into. Not for me. Getting into this EP, though, from the opening riff on the song Lost, it kind of felt something from the mid-2000s. Dylan Jones then picks up the vocals, and I thought, this has potential. This isn't driving me away yet. This is fantastic. And it kind of stays that way through all 6 tracks. Like, yeah, it's modern, but I think it rocks enough to keep you listening. It's 20 minutes, it's 6 tracks long, and it's done really well on streaming. I think the title track has over 1 million plays. So It's definitely, these guys are definitely getting people's attention, and it would be pretty cool to see them at Sonic Temple. If I had to pick out standout tracks, it would probably be the title track, as well as Fake and Wasted. But again, it's 20 minutes and 6 songs. If you like one of the songs, you're probably going to enjoy all of them. So if the idea of them having kind of a modern sound doesn't totally turn you off, I would say give them a listen because it's worth it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think, like you said, there has been some modern rock over the course of our podcast that I've picked, especially in weeks where maybe there wasn't something that was like specifically up my alley. You kind of branch out, and there have been a few that really do catch my attention. So I'm interested in hearing what these guys have to offer. And sounds like an interesting stage, that stage 4 on Thursday. Some little bit of variety there, even within like a metalcore kind of bubble, I guess.
It's going to be tough because they're going to be competing with Necrogoblicon on stage 5. So
how do you compete with that?
Yeah, I don't know the actual play times yet to know who's going to be up against them, but they'll have their work cut out for them.
For sure. But yeah, definitely worth checking out Nerv if you're a fan of a more modern metal. Those guys will be worth checking out. And again, Sonic Temple coming up in May. Not sponsored. Important to note that. Although, again, if Sonic Temple wants to sponsor us to come cover their event, that'd
be fun.
Hit us up. We'd love to do that. A certain anime convention has done that, so maybe we're on that path. So, but I am continuing through Frontiers, and as we get to my vault pick, we are onto the letter V. So we are wrapping this up. 2 weeks on the letter V. And this was a band, sometimes we get to a letter and I see a band that's like, I really want to know more about this band because I really dug something that we came across during the podcast. So when I saw these guys as an option, I jumped on it. This is the 6th album from the German progressive metal band Vanden Plas, and this is the Seraphic Clockwork. These guys have been around since the mid-1980s. I probably said that when we talked about them earlier on the podcast, but they've been around for a while. The lineup as of the time of this album was Andy Kuntz on vocals, Stefan Lill on guitars, Gunther Verno on keyboards, Torsten Reichert on bass, and Andreas Lill on drums. As should be noted, and probably was noted when we talked about their recent album in 2024, that Alessandro Del Vecchio was joining them on keyboards as of the time of their last album. Now, I don't know, what'll happen with that. Obviously, again, with the whole Frontiers thing. If you like melodic progressive rock, this album is right up your alley. It is 9 songs for 1 hour and 12 minutes. And it's really 8 songs for 1 hour and 7 minutes because the last track is a bonus track thrown on. It's only 5 minutes long. The whole album kind of builds up to the final track, which is 12 minutes and 51 seconds, On My Way to Jerusalem. It's got a great sound, great vocals, great music. It does have a proggy feel to it, but it didn't drag on, which sounds weird to say about an album with 8 tracks and over 1 hour long, but it really did kind of keep moving, which means that it was an interesting progressive sound. It doesn't get boring and drone on and just kind of meander, I guess. So I really enjoyed it. I'm definitely interested in checking more of these guys' albums out, but I'm glad I kind of doubled back to get these guys. Standout tracks include Frequency, Holes in the Sky, Scar of an Angel, and The Final Murder. Yeah, I really dug Vanden Plas. Again, another band that's been doing it for pushing 40 years now and knew nothing about them before last year when we came across them on the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. It can be difficult when it's a new band to you, when they are very proggy, very long compositions. Like, I try to remind myself when listening to some of this music, it's like I've listened to 24-minute Dream Theater tracks regularly. None of this should faze me. And I think once I kind of get that first hook where it's like, okay, there's something here, it's usually not a problem. But when you first look at the track list, it can appear pretty daunting.
Yeah, agreed. And we come across these bands a lot, especially anybody who tags himself in the progressive, especially if they're melodic progressive. You just know that it's going to be lengthy.
Yeah.
But no, overall, it did not feel like it was weighing you down. I definitely enjoyed it. Definitely encourage you to check it out. Next week, second week on the letter V, and we're going to check out a band next week called Vision Divine. They are an Italian progressive power metal band. We're going to be checking out their 2009 album 9 Degrees West of the Moon, which is notable because it marks the return of singer Fabio Leone to the band, who obviously very famous progressive metal vocalist. So we're going to get to hear his work with Vision Divine next week. So I'm really excited to get to check that out coming up again as we're wrapping up my vault gimmick as we get through to the end of the alphabet, which will allow me to move on to something else. Speaking of moving on to something else, it is time to move on to the end of the podcast. That wraps things up for this edition of the Hard Rock Empire, our new Streamline edition. Let us know. Join our Discord and tell us, do you like the Streamline edition of this podcast? Do you like the 75-minute version of this, whatever it may be, let us know, because we are definitely interested in your feedback on this. But we will continue forward next week. We'll wrap up December. It'll be the music of December the 19th and December the 26th. Not a huge selection of music those 2 weeks, so we'll put it all together in a bow and bring it to you next week as we wrap up 2025. And then we'll have our best of episode the following week. And then we'll start on 2026 because the music is already rolling for the month of January, and we'll be getting to that in just a few weeks. And again, new programming coming very soon. Stay tuned. Join the Discord. Check it out because it's going to be fun stuff. Big thanks to Mike, as always, for his hard work on this podcast. Big thanks to Chris for joining us in the chat. A big thanks to Stove Leg Media for their continued support of our podcast. And a big thanks to you whenever and wherever you are listening to the Hard Rock Empire. That is going to wrap things up. We'll talk to you again next Sunday night for another episode of the Hard Rock Empire, episode number 99 coming up next week. But until then, don't forget to join the Empire, the Nerdcast Empire.